Hello.
For our fourth episode, we are here at Guildhall School of Music and Drama again today.
Yes, in a very quiet studio with a very noisy drummer next door.
Nice practice.
Yes.
Right, today we are going to talk about a legendary woman composer of electronic music from Denmark, Else Marie Pade. And we're going to talk about her work Faust Suite.
Faust Suite.
Faust Suite. I need to maybe stop before I attempt to pronounce anything and just leave that part to you, right? As I did in the previous episode.
Well, I have to say, I have no idea of pronouncing Danish. I mean, all the orthographic little marks above the letters and stuff, I've got no idea. But I do have, fortunately, a translation of the titles of the sections of the Faust Suite. And it's in, how many people? 1, 2, 3, it's in 5 sections.
Right.
With an epilogue. And it's in the same order of events as Goethe's Faust, as what happens in Goethe's play.
All right. Please can you take us through the English translations?
Here we go. So the first section is the prologue in heaven, which is exactly what happens in the play. So it's basically God is in heaven and Mephistopheles comes up to him and they have a sort of philosophical discussion about how easily corruptible human beings are. So God and the devil have a bet. Which is quite interesting that God gets involved in betting, gambling God.
I see.
That the devil can actually corrupt Dr. Faustus. Mm-hmm. Then the next section, and these are quite short, these sections, aren't they? So that's only like 4 minutes long, I think.
Yeah.
Then the next section, which is a bit longer, knocking on 7 minutes.
Around 7 minutes.
Is Dr. Faustus and Mephistopheles. So it's that big discussion that they have together, and the whole thing of Faust actually selling his soul to Mephistopheles.
And we can hear this in the music, right? I never thought about discontent when I listened to it, but it gets louder and noisier in this particular section.
Yeah.
Right.
It gets really harsh there.
Let's continue.
Yeah, and then the third section is Faust's love for Margaret, or Gretchen, she's known. It's the diminutive of Margaret, Gretchen, because there is a love story in the middle of the play, and it's a love story. It's one of these kind of really twisted things where there's a love potion involved, and he's a much older guy, and she falls pregnant, and it's all a hideous catastrophe. But there is true love. He would just sit and, be the big philosophical discussion point for the Faust character is about the beauty of nature as opposed to the complexity and the beauty of academic knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so he sees her as this wonderful image of nature, which of course his love and his awful pact with Mephistopheles corrupts horribly.
Yes.
Which I shouldn't laugh about, but there you go. Then the next section is Margaret's condemnation. So this is when she ends up. I think at the end of the story, she's either dead or insane. She kills the kid that they have. She kills the baby and ends up. It's dark.
And this part is less harsh with some of the sounds, but there is a dark ambient side in it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it also, I mean, for me, that section, her condemnation, what really affected me when I heard this was that's the first time that voice appears. Mm-hmm. So it's this condemning voice. I don't know whose voice it is, whether that's Mephistopheles or God, but there's some sort of sense of sort of judgment on poor Margaret there.
This was the first piece of music that introduced me to this composer.
Oh, wow.
And this part is the first part I heard. I don't know how that became the first part. Mm-hmm. But I really loved the expanded dark ambient sine waves, but then that evil-like man's voice is like a reminder of a nightmare.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
something that is turning into a nightmare, or what was it called? Like when you have sleep
When you
sleep
can't.
paralysis. When you have
Sleep
sleep
paralysis.
paralysis, like, you know, you're in a dream and everything is ethereal, maybe sometimes not. There's something eerie in it, and that's how I feel in this piece. And then that dark voice that you just can't stop.
Yeah.
You can't breathe. You try to talk and respond. That feeling.
Well, that reminds me. I mean, I have read people, in other cultures, saying that sleep paralysis is due to the devil or a demon sitting on your chest.
That's the thing in Turkey.
There you go.
Turkish culture is one of those things. We even have a name for it. We call it Karabasan. And that means basti attack. And it is the feeling, it describes the feeling when that sits on your sleeper's chest.
Wow.
And so it gets just so heavier that you cannot move or breathe. So that my culture is one of those cultures with that kind of belief.
Wow.
Maybe we like dramatizing things a bit.
I noticed a bit of drama in Turkish culture, yeah. And then the last section, talking of drama, the last section is the journey to Brocken Mountain and Walpurgisnacht. So this is like the massive party of witches and evil demons and whatever on the mountain on this one night of the year when the demons can have a party, which is one of the most complicated parts of Goethe's play, because there's a play within a play. They all witness, there's a stage on the mountain and they all witness a play and comment on it as it's going on. So there's Mephistopheles, Faustus, and Gretchen is in there as well. But by that point she's completely mad, as I remember it.
It's very good that you know so much about this. When I picked this piece, I honestly did not imagine we would be talking about discontent, but it's a very important element of these pieces.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's very good to talk about it.
Well,
for taking us through that.
The thing, of course, that strikes me straight away when you think of this, she's taken this subject matter, this programmatic subject matter for a piece like this, in the context of her life, was, of course, Goethe and Dr. Faustus and Goethe. It's a German story.
Her life has had a lot of interactions with that culture due to the war, but also technically she did compose in Cologne later on. So just like our previous composer, Radig, she was introduced to electronic music in France. When she got in touch with the radio Pierre Schaeffer was running, and they did respond to her, and then she went there for training. She got some training and she started music concrète, and she was a classically trained composer. She was playing the piano, but due to illnesses and things going wrong, and also we can talk more about that, being in prison, her direction changed into something else, and being in France gave her this chance to explore this side of music, which manifests itself very well in this album. Of course, she built upon that when she went to Cologne to work with the likes of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and she attended the Darmstadt school also. So I'm not surprised that we have these German titles here in this pieces.
And you know. Well, Stockhausen used one of her pieces as an example of electronic music in one of his lectures. Yeah. You know, the main impact of German culture on her as a composer is that she was imprisoned. She was a rebel, and she was a member of the Danish resistance against the Nazis in her hometown of Aarhus.
Aarhus, yes. She was where she was captured and then imprisoned. But before that, she was part of the resistance group. distributing newspapers that the German government called illegal. She was against Nazis.
Well, there was a story that what she was caught for was the resistance had a plan to blow up the telephone system, to destroy the telephone system when the Allies were going to invade Denmark. So because the Nazis were using the Danish telephone network. Yeah, so they had a thing to destroy that. But I wouldn't mind reading out. This is her own words. This is from a piece that she wrote that was published in The Wire in 2017 about that part of her life and what that meant to her musically. Now I experienced on my own body almost everything I had read about in illegal accounts. A dramatic arrest, a hysterical house search, warning shots, handcuffs, interrogation, the third degree, blows and kicks and solitary confinement. One night, when everything was chaos in my mind, I screamed out loud in fear and helplessness in my solitary cell, but no one came. It was then I promised myself that if I survived this, I would work with music for the rest of my life. And then I felt a strange calm. Light, warmth and love were all around me. I was no longer alone. This was the turning point in my life. So,
thanks a lot for reading that. That gives a lot of perspective about the composer and this pieces of music. So she saw the light, and that's why she used the word stars from the window, something like that. I'm not sure about the exact phrase, but that's the analogy she was making from her cell, looking up the sky, and then that is the starting point for those compositions, electronic works.
Yeah. And so she dedicated herself to music because of her experiences at the hands of the Nazis.
Yeah.
And which of course it gave her an incredible motivation. But it's no surprise that when you hear her music, there's an edginess in there. It's not the like we were talking about last week, the kind of blissful use of electronics that Eliane Radig created. There's a harshness and there's a scariness.
Yes, she used more of the darker expressions in her music. There is some calm moments, but it is very well connected with the darker edge, which is very inspiring for me, and it is the kind of sounds you would also hear in Japanese, or even in black metal, that kind of darkness I am talking about here. I'm not talking about brutal vocals in black metal, rather I'm talking about the blurred, darker, drony sounds.
My knowledge of black metal and all the rest of it is pretty limited, but there is a strong Scandinavian connection, isn't there?
Exactly. It comes from Norway. It originates in Norway. But also, she had been through a lot, so possibly being in the cell, that was her reflection of it. And when you were reading this excerpt from her interview, it just reminded me of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he was also imprisoned, a Jewish psychiatrist. And then he thought, I'm going to write this book, and that is what I'm going to do. And finding a meaning, finding a purpose, because that was the only thing the Nazi soldiers wouldn't be able to take away. What you think in your mind, what you can do, that's the only thing they couldn't control, and that's where your freedom comes from. So that's what he imagined, and then he wrote this book, Man's Search for Meaning. I can see a parallel between that book and what she created.
Well, there's another two parallels that musical parallels that jump out for me is Olivier Messiaen.
Oh yeah.
14 pour la fin du temps, and which of course he wrote pieces in the concentration camp, and also from a sonic point of view, that there is a relationship in the sound world that she's created with Iannis Xenakis. And Xenakis was horribly disfigured in the Second World War.
Had to change countries, had to change places,
and that was at the hands of the British. That was at the hands of the British rather than at the hands of the Nazis. But nevertheless, I mean, he was displaced, and he was as I say, quite brutally disfigured and really badly injured.
Yeah.
And there is a similarity in the sound world that they've created. There's this emphasis on quite penetrating high frequencies.
Yeah, I would almost call them glitches.
Almost, yes, yeah.
This is like error, but beautifully handled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the article, the aesthetics of failure.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is something about that in it.
Yeah.
Unlike the music we listened to last week, there's not just a monotonous sound, which can be beautiful on its own right. Yeah, we hear the harsher end of the higher frequencies, although there's also a good balance with the lower end.
The link with Xenakis and this high frequency thing is almost connected to tinnitus as well. You know, often after an explosion or after a blow on the head or, after some sort of catastrophic event like that, people do experience tinnitus.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering whether there's a memory of that in their work. You know, these awful traumas that happen to them leave an acoustic kind of signature.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it would be very good to, if these composers were alive, it would be very good to actually do a documentary about that. I mean, there is a Danish documentary about Else Marie Pade, but she was not well known, or she was not recognized well enough, such that her date of death was documented incorrectly.
Okay. Right.
Yes. And people didn't know if she was alive or if she was not around anymore. Well, it is confirmed she's not around anymore. And I think somebody should translate that Danish documentary at least.
Yeah.
But sadly, she never got that kind of recognition a pioneer in electronic music composer should get. She was among the pioneers. She went to the music concrete school.
Well, absolutely. I mean, something that we didn't mention is that this piece that we're talking about, this very complicated and rich piece of electronic music, is from 1962.
Yes.
It's very early.
It is. It is very early. It is a pioneering piece in that sense.
You know, this is a good 10 years before a lot of the synthesizers that we talk about were even created.
And I use the word glitch, that's my own personal analysis, but she did make ambient music and she did generate glitchy sounds before it was labeled that way. Today we talk a lot about glitches or circuitry bending in music. Those were not the tools she was using.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a whole section. I can't remember in which part of. I think it may be in the third section. But there's a whole section of the piece where the major sounds, the kind of conversation in the sounds, is between different tape delay regeneration. Mm-hmm. This echo that becomes its own sound in its own right, which is at the heart of dub reggae. You know, it's a sound that was used all the way from the late 60s onwards, is using tape delay and then feeding it back into itself. And she's used that technique to the point where it actually becomes of real compositional value in this in 1962. You know, so she's well ahead of the curve.
Definitely deserved much more recognition for her work.
Yeah.
I'm happy we can cover that in our session, and I hope it reaches out to more people. But then that also hopefully gives more perspective about all of these composers we're trying to cover. We are calling them pioneering for a reason, as they shaped something or they. In a way, they innovated something that didn't exist, and also bear in mind the facilities they had access to were much more limited. But I think the thing that changed it for her was the moment that you read an excerpt from about from the prison, but also when she decided to get in touch with Pierre Schaeffer's radio, and it worked out. Sometimes you just need to push harder and harder.
Well, this is the thing, of course, is that we're talking about a woman here, and it's
more difficult.
This is the thing, is that for women at that period and today, of course, to have this degree of success and recognition means that extra push.
It was like a hugely male-dominated place, still can be. In recent years, there have been more recognition and changes. They made documentaries like Sisters with Transistors, trying to pay respect to these composers, and some of them, they could talk to because they're still around, which is great for a documentary. But around that time, it was all men in the studios, radio engineers, or the composers. So most of these composers, just like maybe Delia Derbyshire or Daphne Oram here, were told by either parents or other carers or people who were older than them to stop making music. It's not a woman's thing to do, And she was playing the piano, but still, she didn't get the resources or was not supported to keep going.
Well, from a technical point of view, one of the things that's makes that even more ridiculous is that if you look at photographs of record manufacturing plants from the 60s and 70s when they were at their height. I mean, the highest production of vinyl records was in 1975. Now, if you look at these massive plants where they are testing the equipment and checking the product, it's all women. It's all women that are working in those places.
Wow, yeah.
Because women have slightly better hearing than men. Women have a slightly greater bandwidth and slightly greater sensitivity to dynamics than men. And it seems so ridiculous that women don't work in the technical side of music because has this macho boys with toys nonsense.
Yeah. Those gender cliches or norms. So, I mean, this is not the part of the main talk today, but it definitely was what happened.
Yeah.
They weren't given voice or space.
Yeah. But also, I think that that women, in the same way that black people have always been attracted to, there's been the whole Afrofuturist movement. This idea that when something is new, it attracts people who are restricted in the current. So the idea of going forward, you connect yourself with new technology, new movements, new ideas. And with novelty. So I think maybe that Else Marie Pade or Eliane Radigo or Daphne Oram or Delia Derbyshire, they were able to find success with the new music. If they'd have been writing string quartets, they would have disappeared.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very good take. Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Are we done? Have we got
3 minutes is good, right. I think that's perfect. Do you have any final notes?
Apart from the inspiration that that she got, the drive, the motivation that she got from her experiences being imprisoned by the Nazis, a big part of her idea of musique concrète, of using the sounds of life in a musical way, come from her experiences as a child, which resonate a lot with our discussion in episode 2 about Todd Dockstader. Yeah. Is that she was
in bed
for long periods at home when she was a kid with quite rare kidney disorder.
Yeah.
So she had to spend long periods immobile in bed, and letting her imagination run with the sounds that she was hearing every day, and the rhythm of the sounds, as in certain times of day you have a different sound world to others. And that's what really resonated with her when she heard of Pierre Schaeffer's work and the idea of musique concrète.
Yes. Yeah.
that the idea of organising the sounds of life around you in a creative way was something that she'd been doing as a child.
Yeah, it resonated with her childhood. Possibly, what happened in the prison was connected with that kind of an approach too.
Yeah.
Seeing the lights outside, also hearing the sounds, and imagining a world with them.
Well, this actually in her own article, she quoted Pierre Schaeffer, because there's a quote from Pierre Schaeffer: "A perfect universe of sound is at work all around us," and and that's what she was experiencing as a child, and that's how she imagined the sound world as when she was ill in bed, and that's something that she tried to create in her later life.
Yeah. Amazing. I hope she rests in peace.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to Guildhall School today. That's the end of our episode 4. Thanks for listening.
Good. Looking forward to the next one.
Yay.